Welcome to Heels, Handbags, and Hustle. Step in faith, carry love, pursue God's calling. This is your host, Rachel Earp, and I'm so delighted that you found my show. My podcast is dedicated to encouraging women to be more bold, confident, and secure in their work and femininity. I've had the privilege of bringing on many outstanding women who share their journeys, stories, and successes with us. I believe women should embrace their God-given gifts and abilities without the entanglements of fear, comparison, or past mistakes. As a wife, business owner, and mom of 2 boys, one with Down syndrome, I have found such joy in the community of supportive women. My prayer is that this podcast elevates each person who listens and inspires a closer walk with God. Now, let's get to it, friends. Hey friends, I just want to personally welcome you to the Heels, Handbags, and Hustle podcast. If you're new here, well, I'm just delighted that this is the first episode that you have encountered because you're going to love my guest today that I'm going to be featuring on the show. Melissa Thompson is actually a personal friend of mine, and I have been wanting to just bring her on because there's so much beauty and depth to her story. I'm going to read you a little bit about her before we bring her on today. Melissa Thompson is a highly accomplished real estate leader with almost 4 decades of experience, achieving remarkable milestones, including the distinction of being named Tennessee's #1 agent and personally generating over $2 billion in home sales. I know, guys, she's phenomenal. As the founder of Melissa Thompson and Your Key to Memphis Real Estate team, she empowers agents with the expertise and support needed to reach their full potential. A 3-time Icon Award winner and sought-after speaker, Melissa shares her insights on growing real estate businesses, team dynamics, and mindset. She is also passionate about giving back, serving on the board of directors for the Rise Foundation, and supporting various philanthropic, I can't say that word, initiatives. Y'all know what I mean. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on, but I just want to say, just pay attention to the nuggets of wisdom that you're going to hear from her, because whether you're in the real estate industry or not, these are life-changing, and you'll hear her story of how she got started, what that looked like as a mom raising children, and fast forwarding to the season of life that she's in now. So cannot wait for you to hear this conversation, friends. Stay tuned, keep listening. You're going to love this episode today. Friends, welcome to another episode of the Heels, Handbags, and Hustle podcast. I always say this at the beginning, but I have another treat for you guys. And it's so funny because every episode is a treat, but this one is truly special. I'm honored to have invited Melissa Thompson onto the show today. And I just have to preface this whole conversation with saying she's absolutely adorable, and you have to go follow her on Instagram. I'm obsessed with all of her reels and videos. And when you go, I'm not even going to spoil it. When you go there, you'll understand why. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show today. What an honor to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. Well, I know you, but for those who are listening and are wondering who is Melissa Thompson, there's so much to your life and your story, but I would love to just kind of dive in a little bit into the beginning. If you don't mind, just kind of share where you originated from, how you got started as an award-winning realtor, and what that actually looks like from the inside. Because I know on the outside, everything always looks so magical, and it's usually not that way.
Not at all. Sure. So I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. Pretty much was born and wasn't born here, but grew up here and moved here in the early 70s. Went to college to be a teacher. So I think I've always loved learning that aspect of it, but I was like, I did not like being a teacher. So I only did that for 2 years and got my license. So that was the mid 80s. And we moved back to Memphis at the time. We were across the state in Tennessee. So just steadily grown my business and went from 5 to 6 to 7 figures during each process of the journey, with that to where I am today. And so now I just run a team of about, 15 to 18 agents right now that God keeps bringing more people in my life. So really what I'm doing is helping seasoned real estate agents kind of grow their career as well. So after 38 years of selling, just helping give back, however I can in that way too. Then Gary and I are married. It's like it's a remarriage. So we have 5 kids together. And the most important thing, I knew a grandchild. He's like 2 years old. So he's the apple of our eye. But they live in Colorado. So our goal is to see them like once a quarter. But yeah, super sweet.
It's adorable. How fun. And I love how I get so delighted at how you describe yourself because you're like, oh, I just do this. And I just like, it's no big deal. But it's truly like all of the things that you've accomplished is so beautiful to see. And I love that your heart is to really give back and invest back into others who are starting out in your profession because I am not a realtor, but I am sure that it is very competitive and there's so much more to the industry. I think a lot of people, they want to be a realtor. They just get their real estate license, but they also dabble in a lot of other things too on the side. There's something that you were just laser focused on building beyond just, I'm going to go ahead and just get my license for the heck of it. So I'm sure as many years as you've been in the industry, you have seen things change so much. And being able to coach and mentor other people in this industry is, I'm sure, not just rewarding, but also it's got to be interesting to look back and see like, wow, things have changed now from when you started. Talk about that for a little bit. What did it look like when you first got started in the industry?
Yeah, so it's funny. We had a book. We had the MLS had a big book. I mean, it was like a phone book, and that's where the houses were. So really, at the time, we kind of were the gatekeepers. So it's like we had all of the houses, and you had to come to us to be able to have access. And the internet hit, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, we're all going to go out of business." Well, here's what it is: it's a belly to belly business. That's never going away. So it's just a people business. It's just relationships. All these things that happen now. All of my database were on index cards. That's not a bad thing, but now, of course, you have the computer and you can make notes, you can have systems and all the things and AI that's coming into it. So it's been quite a journey, but if people just really realize it's just a relationship, that doesn't change. People still want that. If Zillow came in, they're like, oh my goodness, we're going to be out of business again. Oh, but they just use algorithms and so you just go, it's okay. It's such a mindset game. And the stats are 87% of the realtors get out in the first 5 years. So I'm like, I really don't want that stat to happen to anybody that comes to me. It's possible if it's possible in their life. Anyways, it is hard. I think my dad's always like, you make it look so easy. I don't mean to intentionally, but just really focusing. Oh, no, just right? No, 38 years later, yeah. But just people really taking it as a business. And like I treated it as a business. It's like a lot of people get in for the flexibility. And that is great, but it's like if you can't hold yourself accountable, nobody else is going to. So that's one big thing, if you really want to, to see it grow and be successful. But again, I love to learn. So I was always trying to put myself in the rooms where people were doing more work, whatever I could to learn and help my clients better.
Yeah, I love what you said about if you can't hold yourself accountable, nobody else will. I feel like I need to frame that. It's such a nugget of gold right there because I think what a lot of these types of industries, people, like you said, they just jump into it and maybe they have a vision in their head of how easy it might be, like a piece of cake, I can do that. And then they don't see the entire picture with what it takes to be self-sufficient and moving with the industry when it changes. Like you mentioned, all these new things that come out, and that's just the evolution of the world. There's technology and all the things. You have to be fluid and flexible. And with that, instead of concentrating and this is what I love about you is you saw the challenges, but you didn't let it. I'm sure you freaked out initially, like any normal person would, like, uh-oh, but you didn't fixate on that. Where we're like, it's the end, I need to just give up. Where you understood that, hey, okay, there's got to be something else we can do to get over this and through it and look at kind of the bigger picture. And I think that can be a hard thing for some people to do. I'm sure you do a lot on your teams. So how do you now, having been through a lot of that, how do you advise your teams to manage those issues that come up?
So to me, it's so mindset. I'm working on this agent development program, and the first module is mindset. So it's like, this business ebbs and flows. And when you're on, straight commission, it's like you never know what's going to happen. So it's like you could be on top of the world one day and then the rug's pulled out from you. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It's not. It's awful when you don't know how you're going to pay your mortgage, but you just have to get up knowing the harder you work, the luckier you are. So it's like if you get up and do the work every day, a promise that comes to fruition, God just continues to bless you with what you're doing if you're doing the work. You can't just sit home and eat bonbons, but
That's right.
but you've got to be out there doing the work. And it just gives you different opportunities, to meet with people. It's just a mindset thing. I get up every day and write everything I'm grateful for. That's what I try to encourage them to do, and to work out just to get your mind right, not to pick up your phone when you first get up, do what you're going to do for a morning routine, and then get into the business. Because it's like you can't start your brain with, oh, this contract didn't work out. It's like, let's get our mind right. And then you kind of deal with it better to the best of your ability, and then move on, address it, and fix whatever you can.
So important to set yourself up for the success.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people want to skip laying the foundation, get right to let's just build. But the foundation is the most important and crucial part of what you build on, because unless you do have, and even, there's a lot of references in the Bible that talk from foundation and God being that foundation for us in our life. You can equate that to so many things with relationships and, whether you own a company or you work in an industry and you're really trying to grow. Sometimes we have to take our time and build that foundation strong.
That's so true. It's like, in this business, it is a good 3 or 4 years. I think that's why people get out, because they want to see it now. I mean, everybody wants it now. It's just like immediate, everything to be now. It's like, it's just not the way it is. It just doesn't work that way. So just really doing the things, I love that book, James Clear, Atomic Habits. So it's really just in the little things that you do, every day that will, help you become successful. I love his analogy of like he wants to work out. So it's like he's never worked out before. So the night before he laid out his workout clothes, didn't get in them, but he laid them out, then the next day he got in them, then the next day he drove to the gym. Then the next day he got in the gym, so it's like these little bitty incremental things that get you to accomplish your goals. And instead of we're thinking it's this big thing, it's really these little bitty tiny things along the way.
So true. So funny you mentioned that. Last night, here's a funny story. Don't picture this too much. So I took my first Pilates class last night.
Not, how was it?
Oh my gosh. So I have a friend who just went through the process of being a certified Pilates instructor. So she invited me and a couple of our friends to go to the studio outside of, because they haven't officially opened yet, and give us a private lesson. And I wrestled with it back and forth because I knew I've never done that, and it was so different. I've always wanted to try it, but I probably would not look very cute trying to do Pilates. Let's just say that. I'm like, well, okay, I'm just gonna go. And I didn't do all of the things, but I observed and I watched, and I found that just being there, taking that step and trying it, and even though I didn't know, anything about it, I thought, what's it going to hurt if I go? What's it going to hurt? And sometimes there's just little things that come up in life that we overthink, or I was thinking of how I would be flopping and failing and it's gonna be terrible, and I missed out on. Here's the thing that it ignited in me was since I was, I don't know, for years, I've always wanted to learn the barre, and I always thought they were great, graceful, and so poised.
Yes.
And it triggered that memory because I kind of forgot about it. And it triggered that memory, and I thought, why was I so drawn to that in particular? And I went back to, I love poise. I love gracefulness, and even the classical music and a lot of the stuff that you do in that. It just made me think about how fun it is to learn and kind of think that this is me. Like, this is something that I'm learning more and more to focus on is you have to draw out the things in your life that are important to you and remember that these little chances and
Mhm.
opportunities are what could change the course. This is such a very bad example, but it can change the
Good.
course of your life,
Yeah.
is what, yeah. So like you said, in these types of industries, it's so important to remember at the end of the day, just take away all the technology, all the
Mhm.
crazy things that we have, and it's relationships.
Mhm.
It's just understanding that we are human beings that crave the relationship.
Mhm.
And that is, if you can understand that, that is the foundation that then you can build all of these other things, to grow and be successful. So I love that you encourage people to remember because we forget we're so used to such a technology driven.
Mhm. I think people more crave more of it now too,
Yeah.
because social media, it's like you just text and anyways, I think it's just more and more relational as well.
I agree fully. So you mentioned that you have children, you have a beautiful grandbaby. So I'm assuming when your children were small, you were getting into this and all of this happening at the same time. So what did that look like in your journey of motherhood, also building such an enormously strong team and career that you've moved into now? What did that look like in the beginning? How did you, I know people say balance, and I feel like that's not even realistic
Yeah.
half the time.
Yeah, right.
How did you manage all the things?
So when my Yeah, so I got into real estate before my children were even born. So just a lot of it is my work ethic, not working crazy, just knowing how to work. And so my first son, and then another one came, then we moved, all the things. So you're kind of starting, it's just life, starting and stopping. But then I went through divorce in 2000. My business was fine, but then it was like, all right, now I'm a single mom, now I've got two boys that I've got to, take care of. And it's such a God thing, obviously, but I moved into the house right around the corner from my parents in the beginning of 99 and got divorced in 2000. So I'm just like, that was really my ex-husband at the time where he wanted to be, wasn't me. But I'm like, oh my goodness. And my parents are amazing. So it's like they super helped me with the boys and getting in different places, especially the older they got. So I'm super thankful for that. But you know what
Yeah.
it did is it makes you uber focused. Meaning, it's just like, I knew I only had this many hours in the day that I wanted to spend on it because my boys were my top priority. Not that everybody doesn't feel that way about their children, but it was like my time was just a little bit more limited, being by myself. So, anyways, I was like uber focused. It's just, I mean, you know how it is when you can uber focus on something. It's funny how it can change your life, and that's what I really did, which is super
Oh,
focus on that. So for those 5 years, and the Lord blessing me, obviously, but between my parents helping me when they needed to, and just being super focused and my business grew. I was like the number one agent in the state in '05. That was just 5 years after that, from just being able to focus and put systems in place. And I hired my first assistant, so all the things that I could do to kind of leverage to be able, to do that. Then '08 hit, so then you start all over again. But talk
yeah.
about pivoting, I just became short sale certified. I didn't even know what that meant, but again, we got through it. You just figure it out. You just know there's ways. People still have to buy and sell, so what can you do to help them in that journey? And at that time, so many people were upside down. So this is one way I could help them sell their house, with and work with their lender. So just
Yeah.
pivoting. But yeah,
Yeah.
just trying to find all that balance with family and kids. And then they get older and then they, have three basketball games in a night. And anyways, it's, but it's fun. It's what I realize now on this side of it is such a short amount of time in the scheme of things, so just not to rush it or not to think I can't wait, because they'll be gone. You're like, oh, if I could have had just a little bit of that, back again, or not try to rush through it, I should say. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That's really true. And I think when you're in it, and because I'm kind of in that phase right now that you were in,
Hmm.
where you're little. And there's sometimes I think you have to give yourself a little bit of grace because you're going to have days where it just doesn't happen.
Right.
Something's going to give, and you feel like you've ignored your
Yeah.
children, or the house is a disaster and the laundry's piling up,
Yeah.
or you're behind and you just feel behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something we measure as far as, well, what that looks like, sometimes based off of where we think everything has to just be this perfect alignment. And the reality of it is it just isn't realistic. It doesn't always work that way, where everything is just in all these all your ducks are in a perfect row, Life is messy, motherhood is messy,
Yes.
work and relationships and things that you don't see coming all the
Mm-hmm. Right.
time.
And
The,
your list is never going to get done, just knowing it's like, okay, so you made this list and for the day. And honestly, just trying to think, okay, God, who do you want me to see today? And sometimes that may be a friend that needs you as opposed to doing this. My assistant always said I was more of like a counselor because I'm talking to people. Of course, buying and selling is a big thing, but then they become friends and then but you know what? That's what matters. I'm never going to die wishing I'd sold one more house. So just trying to be attuned to who God puts in your path for the day and whatever, like you said, with the kids that are there at that time and they've forgotten something at school and you're running here, running there and not what you have
yeah,
planned. So anyways, yeah, you just have to adjust.
yeah, I agree. This is what I find so funny is I'll have people that will come up to me and they'll be like, "How do you do it, Rachel?" And all these. Meanwhile, I'm behind the scenes like a hot mess all the time. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? How do I do it? I have no idea. Let's just keep piling more stuff on. But I think it's okay to, if it fills your cup,
Yeah.
and that's how everyone's wired differently. And I really feel like it's important to remember that you don't measure the things that are in your life with what is in someone else's life. It's okay to get advice, to learn and to grow from other people. I feel like that's super important. But that doesn't mean that your day and all the things are going to look exactly the same as someone else's, even within your own industry.
So true.
You really have to figure out what works for you, and that's where you have to do the work. That's
Mm-hmm.
the thing. Like, you have to do the work. You can't skip through and just jump to another portion of success without going through the steps and figuring it out. But once you can do that and learn, well, this does not work for me because I'm late, or I'm this,
Yeah.
and I'm not getting back to emails, and you have to notice those things. It's self-awareness.
Yes.
How do you, like, when you were first starting in the industry, obviously, you don't jump into it being instantly like, I got it, like, I'm amazing. So how did you figure out the self-awareness part of it? Was that a long process for you, or did you kind of catch on to that pretty quickly?
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. He's like, I just remembered the first real estate office I was at. There was one agent that was super negative. So it's like, I just making sure, and she just was. And I was just like, I just cannot be around that. So it's like, I knew enough to know, and that was, mid-20s, to know that's not helpful, to what's going on, and not to sit around and talk and gripe and, because a lot of times we can make the things worse than what they really are. It's like if you sit there and put your mindset in a space that doesn't need to be. So anyways, just again, trying to surround yourself with people that are going to encourage you and not to bring you down or not to compare you. Our business is super competitive, like how many houses or what have you done and all that. So just trying to go, what makes sense for me? I don't have to make X, or I don't have to sell this many, or what would be fine, to do. But anyways, just the comparison game is a tyranny. It's like, it's just not good at all to compare. And a lot of companies can do that. I don't think they mean to, or maybe I just got sucked into it. It's like, I want to sell this many and beat this, but just going, no, I really don't. Cause I'm like, I don't want to work like what that takes to be able to do that. Anybody bragging about working 80 hours a week is not a brag to me. I'm just like, that's awful. you
I
know.
know.
So I'm just like, what is that? But we've
Yeah.
done it as realtors, thinking, well, we're open all the time, we should work all the time. And when I started putting boundaries in, people started respecting them. So I'd go
Mm-hmm.
to a listing and go, I'm here's my hours. I'm not going to work on Sunday. Now if you have an offer we need to negotiate, totally different. But
Yeah.
this is when you can call me. This is when I'll answer, kind of thing. And then they were fine with that. So it's just we let things happen that we shouldn't, but just being proactive of where our boundaries lie to help, with that as well.
Yeah. 100%. That is the boundaries thing. I'd love to talk more about that because I feel like that can be such a gray area for many
Mm.
people. They maybe I should word it like this. They're drawing boundaries with a pencil.
Mm.
So they kind of
Yeah.
but don't want to commit. Yeah. And I do think as our life evolves and our priorities change, our
Sure.
dynamics change, that yes, you can adjust those boundaries. But it doesn't do a lot of good to draw a boundary if you're not going to honor it.
Mhm.
Other people won't honor that unless you do.
Right.
Exactly what you were saying is sometimes we do that out of fear because we're
Hmm.
afraid of what people will say or how they're going.
Yes.
That's a big one. I've done that. I've
Hmm.
thought, oh, this this is toxic or this has been stressful or there's negativity and things that are affecting me deeply, but I'm so afraid if I actually create that boundary that person's maybe they won't speak to me again
Hmm.
or like me anymore. And you kind of have to sift through those thoughts and feelings, set them aside and look at how is my life though being impacted? How is my spouse and my children and things. There's so much more depth to creating those boundaries. So what words of advice do you have for that that version of you in the beginning who was trying to figure out the boundaries and the feeling the torn between work and raising your kids
Hmm.
and finding joy in life? Like, what are your words of advice for her?
So, what I've really been doing this year, which seems crazy after all these years, really concentrating on my Sabbath. So it's like, in real estate, it's 7 days. But I'm like, I'm really just, God intended us to rest for a day for a reason, and really understanding that he doesn't need me to run this world. And not that I thought he did, but I kind of did, especially
Uh,
my real estate business at least. So really being intentional for designating a time for that to be just to go, okay. And then I can't think of the author, but a great book on the Sabbath. He was like, I don't buy anything. So he's really intentional about like not shopping on Amazon, love me some Amazon. So it's like, just think about giving that a day off, of people that are working for Amazon. Anyways, it's just a great mindset to think, let's not shop. Let's just do things that you enjoy for that bit of time. It's really opened up some creativity in my life, which I, been missing because you're just going, going, going kind of thing. So that's been kind of fun. But in the beginning, it's hard when you're starting a business to think that you're going to put these boundaries in. But coming from where I've come from, I know that when you do, people respect them, like you said. And it was me not doing it. And the funny thing is, the first thing I did was on my cell phone, put that you can reach me on the hours from 7 to 7. And then I was like, you're nuts. That's 12 hours, right? I'm
right.
saying that's good. So I'm like,
Yeah.
lost
Oh,
your
that's
mind.
funny.
But then I kept shortening. But the funny thing was it was the realtors that gave me pushback on that. So they were just like, now some of them were like, I love that you did that. That's super smart. And I respect that you're doing that, kind of jealous that I did that. But then some were like, who doesn't work till, after 7 o'clock, you'll call me the next day. So you just got to have thick skin going, this is not about you. It's about me. It's
Yeah.
like I'm going to enjoy my dinner with my family, and you're not going to call me and me like in the middle of dinner or don't talk to my kids or whatever it may be, again, unless you're working a contract, that can be an exception. But, I stopped going to appointments late at night, late, 7:30 or 8, it's like, no, here's my hours. When you give people options, they'll fit into those hours. But when you just
Right.
have a blank slate, they'll pick the time and run your day. So then I was like, well, does tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 4 work? Then they make it work, So it's just
Yes.
being bold enough to go, this is how I work. And like you said, I'm going to draw it with a line with a pen and not a pencil. So you don't cross it. So it's a
Oh my God.
journey.
So good. This is so good. It's funny because when you're first starting in, especially I feel like these types of industries, you kind of go from, I'm open 24
Yeah.
hours a day, call me anytime, to you get to a point where it's like, don't call me,
Uh-huh.
I'll call you. I'm like there right now. It's so funny
Right.
how that's how it is. You feel like, and I think for whatever reason, we feel like in the beginning, we have to make ourselves available to
Yeah.
every person and stop everything that we're doing. And I
Yes.
remember going through that when my husband and I first started in our industry, which our roots are in the insurance industry. I remember Dale and especially because at the time he was really in this build mode and recruiting and all the things. And it didn't matter what we were doing, whether we were, like you said, you're in the middle of that bite and the phone rings and you put your fork
Yeah.
down and you're like, isn't it crazy how when we just thought we felt good about it. Like, this is what we have to
Right.
do. We're so successful because my dinner's cold and I'm working. And there's times when, like you said, it's appropriate,
That's
maybe.
right.
I think you have to use wisdom though, because what we look back now and we didn't prioritize what was important
Mm.
correctly. And what ended up happening was the burnout
Mm.
and anxiety and the stress and the overwhelm. And then when you're in that state, you don't function very well.
Right.
It robs you of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like our careers, aside from really our family and relationship and all of the other stuff, but a career is something that you don't want to do every day, despising it, feeling like it's killing you. Like you don't want that. And I don't think we have to live life that way. I mean, I truly feel that when you do work, you do it to honor God. God blesses it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just have to, at the end of the day, maybe you didn't get everything off your list checked off, but give it to God and say, hey, Lord, I tried today. I felt like I didn't get everything that I wanted to done, but will you just take what I did and would you multiply it?
Mm-hmm.
Trusting that He will honor that makes such a big difference and just gives you peace of mind.
It does. It does. Yeah, that's good.
So I want to know, pivoting forward now, you've been through so many changes, so many seasons, and now you're in coaching and mentoring. How does that feel? Do you find that has been more fulfilling than the other aspect, or do you kind of blend both of them together? What does life look like for you now?
Blending them both together because I still love working with clients. I've just
Okay.
done it so long. It's like, I love that piece of it. I just always have, obviously. That's why I keep doing it for so long. But then I met with an agent this morning and, she's had been through a divorce and she just can't get her feet back underneath her, and been an agent for a while. So be able to go, it's okay. She's coming and joining us. You just do it as long as you need to do it to you can use our admin, all the things. So just, I don't know, that's fulfilling, to knowing that you can help somebody where they are. And I know that she'll be successful, whatever that looks like for them. And knowing that success looks different for everybody. So before I'm like, just because I'm pretty driven doesn't mean it's good, it's bad too. But it's like everybody's not that way. So like they may be perfectly fine selling, 15 homes when I wanted 120, So it's just, so it doesn't matter. So knowing it's fine, it's like whatever anybody wants to do, everybody's journey looks different and what they want to accomplish. So I want
Yep.
them to have more of a balance, meaning like another agent today was like, I'm not doing open houses this weekend because she has some depression issues, but she was just saying, I need to spend time with my family. Absolutely. I'm the one
Mhm.
that's like, Gary and I have date night. So I'm telling my kids, I'm like, you need to be very specific with the date night. And it could be McDonald's. I mean, I
Yeah.
just mean it doesn't have to be fancy, but it's just you
Yeah.
setting time away to be together.
Yeah.
away from the kids is so important. And it's so hard, when you have little ones to do it, faithfully. But, our kids are gone, but Gary's still like, nope, it's Wednesday night. And I'm like, we're together every night. But he's like, nope, it's Wednesday night, which is fun.
Oh, I
But I
love
love his intentionality, just to be
that.
very intentional about making sure that we have our date night, once a week.
Oh.
So, but I do think things like that are important. So I try to pass that on too and share in
Mm,
relationships. That's more important, than anything. So,
yeah. I love that so much. That's so cute. And I think when you're able to share, hey, I've been where you're at. Here's what I've learned. I'm not saying I did everything perfect, but here's what I've learned
mm-hmm.
now. That knowledge is gold. That is so important. And I love that you aren't just coaching and mentoring the industry, but you're also helping people navigate through what that looks like and how they can fit it into their values, fit it into, their life goals, not just career goals, but we got to have life goals.
Right.
No, we got to have life goals. I think that's so important. And that's going to look differently for everyone. So I love that you honor that. I think a lot of people don't understand that and they just pound, this is how it needs to be and this is my way and you need to do it my way and
Right.
sell this homes. And we see a lot of that in our industry too. And that
Yeah.
can be overwhelming for some people where that it could actually cause them to just quit.
Right.
Like, wow, I just personally don't. And I am so different than my husband. Like he's a very much an overachiever and dreamer and all the big things. And I kind of look at like, well, what do I need to do to accomplish that? Can I actually do it? I'm looking at all the little steps I'm going to have to take to get there. And that's the difference in people. So think about that when you have those conversations and
Right.
in teams and mentoring people. That is what makes a beautiful mentor, though. And you definitely have those qualities because you understand that people are so different. I love that so much.
Yes.
So, as we're kind of wrapping up the conversation, even though I want to keep talking and talking and talking, there's one thing I want to talk about specifically, and this is for also to the benefit of my listeners who maybe are in the real estate industry. I feel like just what little I've observed with the industry and how it has changed more with a lot of realtors, you're seeing them more active on social media. And now it's not just listing, they're doing real content and videos and all the things. How do you balance all of that? I want to talk about this because I personally feel like you do it so beautifully and you show up very authentically. But that's kind of a newer thing, right? Like in your industry, that wasn't something that always happens. How did you jump into that and learn it?
Well, I'm still learning.
You just make it so like I just want to sit next to you in the car. That's a talent. How did you find time for that?
So time blocking. So honestly, what I do is like go through and thought about all the questions I was asked, maybe for the past 30 days, for a month, just really, really, a lot of times I'm not creative at all, obviously. I have a videographer. So I was like, I do 30 videos in one day. So it's like, so I spend like 2 days trying to think about questions and how to address it. And then, he comes and I spend a couple hours with them. Obviously, you can tell they're just like, whatever, kind of what it is. But just really time blocking has been the biggest piece that I've done. So it's like, get all that together. Because then if you have to think about it every day, then you're just not going to do it because you don't feel like it. It's like, I don't like what this looks like, or I don't like what I look like. And, you just don't do it. So it's like and the funny thing is, it's just being consistent. So it's like now, I've been doing it probably for 14 months consistently. I'm getting, buyers and sellers. Of course, I'm getting realtors that way, so it's another thing, a layer that you put in that's just being consistent. It's just a little bitty small things, but people give up after a month because somebody didn't like it. And it's not the likes, but it's like this one couple, I'm listing their house and they're like, I saw the video you said about pricing. I saw the video you said about, didn't comment on it when I posted it, but you get, just
can you give it a little like?
Right? Yeah. Help me out, So that's it. And that's where I am now. It's like I'm not caught up into the likes or the because I know people are engaging off of the platform to talk to me about things, So it's like, it's really kind of neat to see it growing that way. But again, it took a good, 9 to 12 months for that to happen. But I think they just know you're going to show up consistently. And I think that's what you show in life. If you do this consistent, like if you're coming to hire me, you're like, she's always on social media. She's always going to do what she says. She's always, I think it just adds another layer of people trusting you
Wow.
to do what they say, what you say.
That's really true. That is something so much more in depth than people realize, the consistency aspect of it in not just one thing, but work to do things consistently in all the baskets. Whether following up with people, and like you said, if you say you're going to email this or you're going to do that, well, mistake. But in general, you have to look at, if you really want to grow and scale, you do have to come to a point where you look at, well, what am I not doing consistently? Because I need to probably spend a little more time on those things, keep doing all the things that I am doing. I want to try to improve the areas that I'm having a hard time with. And sometimes that means delegating. Sometimes that means, like you said, well, I'm going to time block off 2 hours this week, and we're just going to get none of it done because I know life happens or just don't feel like doing it every day. And then that's when you stop and it just comes to a standstill. But I love that you had the foresight to think it through more in depth than just, oh, well, I'm going to do a reel today and see what happens. And then I'll do another one tomorrow. And then tomorrow you don't do one. And then the next day it's kind of like working out, like where you stop. Like, well, I just haven't worked out for 2 months and I don't know what happened, But put it in your calendar. You have to schedule it.
Yes.
Even your date nights, and you dedicated, whether it's Wednesday or Friday, or we're dedicating this time. And I love the word dedication because I feel like sometimes that word is even better than, oh, I'm going to just schedule. Scheduling can feel so cold with certain things, but I'm going to dedicate. Think of what it looks like when you're dedicated. I always picture, if you're dedicated to maybe going to brushing your teeth or going to church, no matter what, even if I'm exhausted at the end of the day, I'm going to do that before.
Yes.
I am dedicated to brushing my teeth because I want to keep them nice, And it is funny how when you dedicate, it becomes a habit. And then that habit, they're hard to break.
Right.
You do it even when you're not even thinking about it. Like, I don't sit there and think, I got to make sure I schedule teeth brushing tonight. It's just, you're going to do it, And not everything in life is that way. But the important things, if we can become dedicated to knowing the outcome, that makes the task so much more fun.
That's right. That's right. And it helps you build upon it, Like you said, you don't even think about brushing your teeth. So then you brush your face, So these things just kind of build on layers. And that's why I'm like, just concentrate on one thing. It's like we don't have to do all the things. So just pick something that kind of stay in your lane, get that down, and then add another layer, So it's like, it's a slow roll, but it's hard for us to do.
Yeah. And I think you can be more efficient the more that you're in that habit. And at first it might feel like you're taking so much time because it's new and you don't know what to say. Like, what do I say? How do I act? You're nervous, whatever. But the more you do something, the more it becomes almost like second nature. Now you're more comfortable. Now you know what to say. So you're not spending as much time doing it. I'm doing it a lot quicker. I'm sure by now you've really figured out, this is the content people seem to really appreciate. This is what I like to do. This is the setting, or this is what I like to wear. You learn, you have to give yourself time though.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. I just love hearing behind the scenes of what that looks like, because someone like me, we just look and it's like, oh, she's just so perfect, so always put together, and look at her. She always looks amazing. And how does she find the time to do this every day? And the reality of it is, you just have days where you don't feel well, or you're tired and exhausted, but you still do the thing and you prioritize what needs to be done. And I think it's just so inspiring. So I love that you're not just a realtor, and that's not like what truly defines you, Melissa. You inspire, you encourage, you invest into other people's lives, not just with your money. But I know you also do a lot to give back. And that's where it's so much more than just the label. It becomes like the core, the things that really make you unique and special can truly have such a positive impact on others. And even making time today to come on here and just share the story. I'm so grateful. And it's been such a blessing to call you friend and be able to get your wisdom, and you've poured into my life so much. So I'm grateful for you and for this time together. I just want to thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Well, thanks for asking. It was so much fun.
It was fun. Super quick, is there any other ways besides, of course, I mentioned Instagram, but what else is there that people can get in touch with you and follow you? Tell us all the ways.
Yeah, I'm on all of it. So TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Find me there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're on TikTok. Okay, I just opened a TikTok this week. I've never been on there, and I'm going to have to follow you on there too. Don't look at mine, because it has a weird funky name. I don't even know what happens. I'm waiting like 30 days so I'm like incognito with it right now. Because I didn't set it up right, but I love that. So all the things. Definitely follow Melissa Thompson. Everyone, you will enjoy it. It's so much more than just the realty stuff, but you're super fun and knowledgeable that I feel like a lot of people could relate to. So
well, yours is great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But like you said, it's like, if you only knew. But thank you again so much, and this has been so fun.
Yes, it has. Thank you.
Well, friends, I just want to thank you for listening today. And if this show has meant something to you, please leave a review or rating on whatever platform you're listening to. Also, make sure you follow the show. This helps me continue bringing episodes like this where women can share their stories and link arms together. I hope you feel inspired and refreshed. Now get out there and hustle, girlfriends.